Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video. And for the last 2 weeks, I've been playing a lot of the beta version of the Gundam card game, especially since we do have the full card list for the beta version out right now. And it's been really, really fun. I think even though that we have like 50 or so cards in this little mini kind of beta set that we have right now, there's a lot of different deck building decisions you get to do. And there's a lot of fun choices. And I've been having a really fun time just kind of theory crafty building and just playing the game itself. So in this one, we're going to go over some of my deck list for this game right now. This is my page on my website, Eggman Events, which I'm going to be updating this as I have different builds and as I kind of tweak with it a little bit more. But generally speaking, too, I think the best way to kind of divide them up are just kind of the two colors that you're using for your deck, since that's kind of the biggest restriction to deck building. So we've got some blue-green decks, some blue-white decks, and some green-white decks as well. So you make sure to check that out. And then also, if you guys want any resources for this card game, again, you can check out my website. I also have a deck builder. I also have, in case you guys are needing it, a full kind of PDF for your proxies as well. So if you find it on this page, you can go here, click right here, and it has the master set of the beta cards. So you can just also, let's say for example, you don't need Charizaki, you can take it out and use then the proxy button. You can print all the proxies here. Also, you can find this on the home page. If you go to Gundam and Structure Decks proxy page, you get this entire thing again. So if you guys need that, let me know. But it should be there. And if you guys need help with the proxies, let me know too. But we're going to jump into it. We've got 9 decks we're going to go over real quick. And generally speaking, they go from best to worst from my thoughts process. So we are going to look at 3 blue-green, 3 blue-white, and 3 copies of green and white. And also, I will say, I think the best color combination right now is blue and green. Blue and white are pretty good too, but blue I think is just the best kind of color that exists in this kind of beta version right now. The amount of card draw and consistency and just value you're able to get from your cards, you really can't get in green and white right now. And so because of that, I feel like blue has to be one of your colors, and then you just decide if you want to go the green way or the white way. I haven't really found like super good green and white decks that I like as much, but if you guys have any suggestions or builds that you've been working on, I'd love to see them too. So we're going to start off with the blue and green decks. So this is the kind of one of the de facto best ones, and this is also one that I did for my my video that I did earlier this week for our gameplay as well. It's a blue and green kind of like mid-range version of Breach. I think there's also a more aggressive version of what we're going to look at, and then kind of also kind of a more high-end version of it too. I also do want to say just real quick, if you guys want to use this in the tabletop simulator mod, you can also just export it here and you can import it into the mod there. If you guys want me to do a tutorial video for that, I probably will make that in the next week or two also. But anyways, going over this one, this is kind of based more on pretty much, I think, one of the strongest combos in the game. It is the Shenlong Gundam as well as the Wu Fei. These just work together really well, be able to be a 6'4" body that's able to breach, and then also you don't take damage. Generally, if you play this on curve, most things have only 3 health, and so the Wu Fei effect of during your turn, if this unit has breach, it can't receive battle damage from enemy units with 3 or less AP. So because of that, you just get to do get rid of something, attack the turn you play, do some breach damage, and not take any damage, which means they're going to have to find another way to give 4 damage to your Shenlong as well. So I think all that's very strong, and that helps out the deck quite a bit as well. Other than that, we're just kind of running, I'd say, more of the value cards for this deck. As kind of mentioned, blue is very, very strong in this game. Gun Tank is probably one of the better cards in this game right now, so being able to run 4 copies of that. We're also playing Thoroughly Damaged, which is, a kind of hybrid of Gun Tank, but more on a pilot. This can give you like 1 more health if you need it, and it does work with Lotto, being able to use this to, attack with the turns played, since it just needs Earth Federation, which this is. But then also we have the Gun Cannon. Gun Cannon is one of my favorite cards right now. It just gets so much value in this game. And I usually like to play the cards that have like higher health totals and that are just a little bit harder to remove. And so Gun Cannon being able to be a 2/4 if we're using the Hayato pilot for that one, and then be able to rest something, attack into it. We have Repair 1. All that means is it's really difficult to remove this body in a lot of situations. And then we also do have like the Gundam here. This one just has kind of the same ability, but also being able to give everything +1 AP is really nice. Amuro is very strong in a lot of situations where you're able to just kind of do some really good value-based trades based on using the when paired effect to rest something with 5 or less HP. So that's very nice there too. Obviously, this can pair with Gun Cannon as long as you're level 4 to make it a 4/4. That's able to rest something, or rest 2 things when it's 5 or less HP, and then 2 or less HP if you need that to happen, which I think is very strong. And then the rest of it, we do have some breach cards too. So we have Rick Dom just has it naturally. So you can also put Wu Fei in this too, and it becomes a 5/4 that is able to not again take damage from smaller things, which is really strong. We have 2 copies of Char, using this with the Char Zaku as well. This card also, you can just put any pilot in here, and then it also pops out a token. So there are some times where like I even put like a Hayato underneath there. So we do like a kind of good trade. It survives. They have to get rid of it, and then when they do, they still get rid of. I get to play a token too, which is nice. Other than that, kind of top end, we do have 2 copies of Wing Gundam, just because this is kind of like one of the better late game cards. In fact, like the best late game card in this game right now. Even though we're not playing the hero, just the fact that this comes out, we can still pair this with Wu Fei, which means it turns into a 6/6 that also just can't take damage from 3 AP or less. So there's just a lot of times where this goes like 2 for 1, while also doing Breach 5 twice, which is really nice. And then again, the blue package, we're playing some Show Resolve and White Base, which you're going to see Gun Tank, Gun Cannon, Show Resolve, White Base, and probably Thoroughly Damaged in a lot of my builds. I think these are just some of the strongest cards in this game right now, and because of that, you're able to just get a lot of value and kind of push your opponent from that too. So this is the build here for this one, and then we've got kind of a more low to the ground version of this one too. This is almost like mono green, and just the idea that this is like a very aggressive version of Breach, where we just try to push towards your opponent's face as quick as possible, and then we just try to go for game. Just from them not getting there. So we can kind of run out of steam at times. So being able to have cards like Show of Resolve, as well as, again, White Base, to be able to not only draw cards, but also being able to play bodies out is really nice off the White Base. We are playing the Mognak with the Sandrock. This is just like an okay combo. This being a 2-drop 3/2 is just worth it enough by itself. There's some kind of like end game scenarios where I'm like, well, I actually have these 2 in my hand, so I could just do that, and that helps me out too. We also are playing Heavy Arms, which is the one for Troa, being able to give Breach as long as you have the pair, which is really nice. So we can use Wu Fei with it. It becomes a 5/5, and then also can't take damage again when attacking a 3 or less. We can put Char underneath it too, and it becomes a 5/5 when attacking. And then we also have Troa's card. This card, I don't know how I feel about it. It's just probably okay. Being able to be a +1/+1 is fine. And there are some situations where either you do want to like give something Breach, or you can put it like in a Char Zaku 2, and then you can convert it into a token afterwards. There's like just a lot of like okay things with it, but I'm not always convinced with that one. But again, like this is just very aggressive. You just want to go very quickly to the face and try to just make it so they can't kind of set up and defend themselves. And with Breach and with, I think Wu Fei is probably one of the most aggressive pilots in this game right now. So nothing too fancy, just kind of like a more low to the ground if you, that's kind of more of your play style. And then we also have kind of like more of a control, I don't even want to say control, but just kind of late game deck, using more of the Wing Gundam kind of effects. So the idea, as you can see, we were running a lot of the same blue staples that I'm talking about, but also the fact that we want to use the effects of like hero to one, we can use it on either Wing Gundam. That we have this one here, which we turn into a 6/5. Actually, sorry, a 7/5 due to this effect, because if it's linked, it gets +1 AP and +1 HP. So this turns into a 3/2 bonus to any Wing Gundam, which is really strong. We're not playing the 3-drop Wing Gundam because I just honestly, like, after testing that card so much, it doesn't really do as much as I like it to. We're going to see it pop up a little bit in the other builds, but I feel like the Wing Gundam 3/3 is just or sorry, 3-drop, the 2/2 is just kind of weird because it doesn't trade into things very nicely either. Like the extra resource is fine, but there's a lot of like end game scenarios where it doesn't do anything anymore, which just feels kind of bad. So because of that, I just felt like we're going to get to 6 eventually. I'd rather have things that we can more proactively get there instead of just having to waste a turn just ramping and then getting there. So that might change when we get to the full set, but based on my testing from some of these games, I just didn't feel like it was super worth it all the time. So other than that, we do have some good Breach cards. Rick Dom as well is back in this one. We're playing more of like the starter deck Gundam here too, and then we are also playing the Wing Gundam, which again, like the idea of this is that we're just trying to get to this guy later. This gets a lot of value. You can win us the game by itself. So we do also have some card draw to help us do that, and then also like White Base. So we're just trying to like generally run our opponents out of resources while still chipping them with breach damage, and then we just kind of go and win the game from there. So I think this build is definitely my least tested of the three, but I honestly I've been having a hard time finding the best way to utilize our 6-drop wing Gundam. So I think this is one way to do it. I think blue and green is a pretty good combination because green is so aggressive, but then blue lets us kind of refill our resources a lot of the time. So those are the blue and green decks, and let's go over to the white and blue decks. This is my favorite deck right now, or something around this. We had like this Ailstrike Gundam announced pretty much on like the release of the like first announcement for this game, but we never saw what the Kira pilot looked like in any regard. But now we see it. This card's really strong. So attack, choose one enemy unit, it gets AP -2 during this battle. So this just gets to do a lot of great value trades, especially because this is a 6/5, which then means that you're technically like a 6/7 if you want to think about it that way, which is just great for us. And so we're kind of just based on this fact that eventually that we're just going to be able to block up and prevent your opponent from doing any do any lasting damage. Like the last damage or two is going to be really tough because we are able to just trade so efficiently, and we have ways to kind of be more consistent and get some more card draw and advantage. So this is also a deck that I used in my video with the green and blue deck. You can find that linked in the description too if you guys want to see this one in action. But in particular, the things that I kind of want from this deck, when we have a lot of card draw, we have a Strike Gundam being able to draw one discard, and it also links with Kira, which is really strong. We also have Show Resolve. We also have White Base, which is able to essentially draw because we're able to play a unit for no hand size, right? So being able to develop that is really good. You also play Overflowing Confidence if you want in this build. I don't think it was as needed, but if you do like that card, you can do that as well. We're playing the blue bodies that I mentioned in the last section. We have Gun Tank at 3, Gun Cannon at 4. We also have Intercept Orders, and then we also have the Thoroughly Damaged, our Hayato. So this also just does some really great work. This pairs with our gun cannon very nicely. There are some other times too, especially since we're more of a blocker defense side, we want to be able to get like that extra health, which is really nice too. We also have this Gundam MA form. This might just be the one card that I'm coping, but it's a one paired white base team. You get to draw one card. It links with Aandroidd, so it can turn into a 6/4, which is nice. But just being able to get like that cycle with cards that we're already kind of using, with like the Thoroughly Damaged, you can turn into a 4/4, which is not awful, but not great either. But being able to get that cycle, I think, is really great in some late game scenarios when you need to find your Show Resolve, or sometimes you need to find a white base, or just a base in general. I think that's something that's really helpful. So lastly, our other base is Archangel, and sometimes I want to do like a 3/3 split between these. And so if you guys want to do that, you can. But activate main once per turn for 2. Choose one friendly unit with blocker set to active, and it can attack during this turn. So that just means like you can attack with Strike Gundam, and then you can get the blocker back. This is way better late game than it is early game, which generally like both these are just kind of better late game bases, which is fine because like sometimes you don't need one early, but at the same time sometimes you just need to plop one out. So I've also thought about playing like side 4 just because it does heal your units a little bit, which can sometimes come up too. But in general, I really do like what this build is. It's really defensive, and also kind of like, as you kind of maybe saw in the video of our match with this deck, that this game's momentum's really interesting, where getting that last damage can be so expensive to do, especially if you're just being really defensive. You have blockers up. You can really kind of push your opponent to be out of steam, and then kind of force them into some of these top deck situations, which I think, like, by and large, our top decks are better than a lot of other top decks in a lot of ways. But this is the build that I've been playing a lot of. I've been really liking it, and there it is there. So this is more of like the white base version of it, and then we also have what I'm calling like more of the Academy version of this build. I really like this Soletta Mercury card, being able to be attack once per turn. Choose one of your resources set to active, so you essentially get this for free if you want to think of it that way. But the other thing is that it has +2 health as well for a pilot, which most of these pilots are +2, +1, or +1. Most pilots boost up the attack points of a unit, but not as much as like the health points. So Soletta is a bit of a anomaly for this one because of that. And I do want to kind of take advantage of it. So being able to make this like a 5/6 as like a backup, instead of like being able to use the effect here to give the AP minus, I think is good for Airstrike. It also does work on its when paired because it's a level 4 higher pilot, so that's very nice there too. And the reason I'm calling this Academy version is because we do have the Michaelis. There also is like Aerial, which I really don't like this card right now. It just says, well, there are 4 more commands in your trash. This card gets cost -2, which sounds good, but we just almost always get into situations where we have infinite resources at the end of the game and less things to do with it. So this being able to be costing less doesn't really do that much, especially since it's just a 3/3 body. There is a chance that when we get the main set, this makes more sense and it's more viable. But in this kind of mini set, I almost like always say Michaelis is just better. It costs only 2. For the same cost, it becomes a 4/4 body, which is just better. And I think this is great. And it's Academy trait too. So it means that you get to use Letter on it. You become a 5/6, which is a lot, and that gets a lot of advantage for it. So I like this card a little bit more right now in the set, but I'm sure that there's some scenarios where Gundam Aerial becomes better moving forward too. But that aside, the other thing that's kind of clunky about the Academy version is that we don't really have that many versions of command pilots that are good for this kind of color combination. If we have, like, we're probably going to get one in the main set, but there's likely a command, a pilot that is a command that is also Academy trait, and once we get that, that will help this deck immensely. But until we get there, it's going to be a little bit tough to get that consistently. So again, we're seeing our blue package here. We have Thoroughly Damaged, which is a pilot, and in case you guys don't know, these command pilots, these do count as commands. So if you have 4 of these in our trash, then you're able to play this and it becomes a 4/4, which is really nice. So other kind of cards that we're using for this that we haven't really talked about is the Hawk of Endymion or Mulaflaga. So this is just like another command pilot. Main in action though, you can choose one enemy unit with 3 or less HP and return to hand. Generally, bouncing stuff to hand is a little bit slow, but being able to use this is good, especially in tandem with some of our Strike Gundams. So this one only looks for Earth Alliance trait, so you can make this 4/4 that can attack the turn it's played with a Hawk of Endymion, as well as this Perfect Strike Gundam. You can make it a 5/4 that can attack, but then also blocker. So I think all that's good. And so I will say that the deck space for this is a little bit tight when it comes to pieces, just because you have to run so many different commands to kind of make it worth it. We're currently running 14. But Overflowing Affection is just a really good cycle card that for any of these decks, like, you can put more copies in. And again, I don't run it in kind of my favorite build of this one, just because I didn't really find as much room for it. But if you do want to play it, you can definitely do that as well. But this one I haven't been doing as much testing with. I kind of like this one more for my testing. But I do think there's something here, and being able to, again, Sleta is a pretty good pilot when it comes to more defensive control decks because of the fact that it gives the +2 health. But that's the build there, and then kind of wrap it up. We've got this one's definitely more of a pet deck, and I won't defend this as much, but I really do like Unicorn Gundam. I think this is really cool. It's a level 5 4 cost. It's a 4/3, but when it is during pair and when destroyed, if this is a link unit, you can put your pilot back into hand, and then you can discard 1. But then also our pilot is bong under links, so when paired, if this is a link unit, you get to draw 1 card. So what you can do on 5 is that you can play this. If it's a 4/3, you play links, you make this into a 6/5. You get to attack the turn it's played, you get to draw 1, and then when this gets KO'd, you get to put the pilot back into your hand, and you just get cycle, right? That's inherently what you get from this. You get cycle, which is really nice. So because of that, I kind of want to just play more of like this kind of control version of it. Just the fact that this, as kind of mentioned, giving 2 health is really, really nice in its own way. And I've tried this like more of like the Unicorn with Academy stuff, and I feel like Unicorn is not like the card that can carry the deck. It's just kind of like a additional bonus value for you. So because of that, we're still running like the Airstrike. I think this is just like the best, one of the better late game cards you can go with this, which I think is very strong. And because of that, it just helps the deck out a bit. We are playing Side 7, as mentioned, this before as like a decision card for this deck and others. But activate main versus space, choose 1 friendly unit, recovers 1 HP. It is a 4 health base instead of a 5 health base, so that's a little bit worse. But we're trying to play this kind of control game and just lasting resources. Healing 1 gets you out of range of a lot of damage at times too. But other than that, we are playing like the same stuff. We're playing Hawks of Endymion as well with the Launcher Strike Gundam. We're playing the kind of low end package and then Strike Gundam as well. Just be able to get your card draw and be able to get your units more consistently, as well as with your pilots. So But yeah, I like it's really silly, but you can use links here with gun cannon. It becomes a 3-5, right? And I've also thought about using it with the RX regular Gundam, like the Star Deck Gundam that we saw here, because then this becomes a 5-6 that repairs 2 every turn. So that was also a card to consider for this one. If you don't like the Hawks of Endymion, you can take out Launcher Strike Gundam as well and just kind of put that with you. Maybe we can even put like a 1 or 2 copies of Amuro. Amuro's never like the worst pilot in any situation. It can get you so much value. But other than that, I think this is I really want to make this deck a little bit more, but I think like blue and white has a lot of potential for us there as well. And then kind of wrap it up, we've got green and white, and self-admittedly, these are probably like a step below the other decks. I just don't feel like the consistency is there as much for these ones, and the fact that we don't have like the card draw from blue. Like most of the card draw we get are just like, replacing effects. Blue being able to actually make additional tokens, cards, and everything else more consistently does really help out the deck. But this is more of kind of like a Academy version, or sorry, a Strike Gundam version of Wing Gundam. So it's kind of the same stuff we've been talking about with using the abilities for like Strike Gundam to be able to draw one discard. We are playing Overflowing Affection because consistently we just need to see Hero and Wing Gundam. If we're able to see this when we're level 6, this gets us so much value. This kind of changes the pace of the game. The fact that this also gets to attack an active unit means that you're able to just get some removal as well as the breach, and that's just very, very strong in its own way. So also, like, Hero works well with it too, because then it becomes a 6/6 that also lets you just not take any damage or like take way less damage in a lot of spots where sometimes your opponent's going to have to go like 2 for 1 to be able to get rid of this Wing Gundam, which is nice as well. But I think that this is a pretty solid version of Wing Gundam. Again, I've really want to find the best way to play this. I haven't found anything that I'm super confident with, and that's mostly because we're so dependent on finding Hero and Wing Gundam in the same one that if we don't do that, it's going to be kind of tough to, like, you just feel like you're losing out on value when you're not able to do that, unfortunately. But I do think that this deck has a lot of potential. We are playing the bird mode in this version just because we do have like another reason to get to 5 resources. So we play this on 3. We go from 3 to 4 with the EX resource, and then on 5 we can play out Wing Gundam or Strike Gundam. Even if we don't put the pilot underneath there, this being a 4/4 blocker that then we can do some stuff with next turn, I think is really strong as well. But we can also play Perfect Strike Gundam, and then we can also just put the Kira underneath it, which will let us attack with it the turn it's played and get rid of a 1 HP unit there too. But I like this deck. I think there's some good spots for it. And when you, again, like if you see Wing Gundam on curve, you feel like you're really good. But whenever that doesn't happen, you feel like you're behind, which kind of stinks. But that's this build. And then we also have more of like the aggro version. This is my first kind of combination of Breach was with white, just with the idea of like, oh, sometimes the blue value cards are like a little bit expensive. We want to be really quick and get there. So because of that, we're playing like Overflowing Affection, since this gets a cycle without having to, spend more than 1 resource, which is good. Strike Gundam also a unit that lets us like draw 1 and trash 1 is pretty good. And we also have the Doll Blade, which does let us get some tempo. It's a 4/2 that you're able to additionally, return something with 1 HP to your owner's hand. We obviously would want to remove it, but the fact that it's a 4/2 that we can also like put, we can still like put Wu Fei underneath it, or we can simultaneous fire or with Troa. Any of these kind of things kind of work out with it. Even though like Wu Fei you need to have breach, so you can have like a 2 with, where you can Troa to give it breach and then put a Wu Fei and then it doesn't take damage. That's probably too much resources for doing that, but I do think the deck is still good. So we do have like some issues compared to the blue one, where late game, if they are able to defend up, we get to just kind of lose because we don't have a lot to do with it. But otherwise, I think this is a fun deck, and I don't know. I think the blue version is better, but you can try the white version if you want. And then lastly, this is just to fill out the 9. This one I haven't done as much testing with. I really kind of want to do with it, and this one just kind of more screams like, man, it would be really, really nice if we had any Academy Command pilots. But without that, we do have a good amount of green command pilots right now too. So as mentioned, the Michaelis is probably the best kind of card that's worth having 4 more command cards in your trash. And with Soletta, you do get that extra advantage. Also, Soletta turns this into a 5/7, which is pretty good in the fact that 5 HP is generally the cap for most things outside of Wing Gundam itself. So because of that, you're able to trade with something. You still have 7 health, or likely 3 or 4, which means that you're able to be harder to remove on the crackback at the same time. So I think Soletta does help us in that spot. You also can give heavy arms the +1/+2. So this turns into a 4/6 with breach, which is really great. And so that usually can get like double breach damage in its own way. So I think all of these cards are kind of nice for those abilities. And we're just trying to pressure our opponent while also being able to do some damage before we get into Wing Gundam and start like doing some major damage in that way. But I don't have a lot on this deck. This one's been a little bit like, haven't been testing as much. And again, I really want this card to work out, and I don't know the best way to use it compared to some of the other cards in other decks as well. But that's going to be it for me. I've probably talked a little bit too long about these decks, but I've been having a lot of fun, as you guys can imagine. And this is, again, just with like the 50 cards we get from the beta version. And it really kind of makes me excited about what we're going to see for the first main set, and what those kind of decks and looks, I don't know, what this game's going to look like in the next couple months as well. So that's going to be it for me, though. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.